single editor-in-chief, Tech Plus Media, and CXO TV. As the host of today's webinar, I would like to welcome all of you in an interesting session on role of IT in enabling an agile supply chain. This is brought to you by Versities. With this, I would like to call on the moderator, Mr. Saurabh Gupta, CIO, Kent Arrow Systems, to lead the session and take the discussion forward.
Thanks, Kalpana, and welcome to Expert Roundtable that Tech Plus Media has organized this. My name is Saurabh, and I'm Chief Information Officer for Kent Arrow Systems. I'm a graduate from IT Delhi with 20 plus years of experience. Just to set the context of this event, I think this pandemic has hit us, all of us, especially the manufacturing and retail industry. It has hit us in multiple ways. We don't see a lot of people coming out of their home to buy products. The planning that we used to do manually for our budget, for our logistics, for our supply chain, I think all of these things have become extremely difficult because of the pandemic. We used to depend manually for generating a lot of data, collecting data, massaging data, and using it for our day-to-day operations, which has become very difficult and has actually hit us in a way that business, the top line and bottom line is taking hit for us. I would like to introduce today's panelists. Please welcome Mr. Rahul Bhade, VP and Head Analytics and Insight, Jubilant Foodworks. I would also like to welcome Mr. Subrata De, Global CIO, Godrej Consumer Product. Please also welcome Mr. Rajiv Khade, Vice President, Global Head Information Technology, Signa Electric Manufacturing Corporation. Please also welcome Mr. Prashant Singh, Group Head IT, Vikrant Springs. Also welcome Mr. Anil Menon, Head IT, Lulu Group India. We also have with us Mr. Roscoe Lobo, Leader Data and AI, Veracities. So let me first go to Rajiv with the first question that I have. And I want to ask him, what are the key challenges that you see customer experiencing in the manufacturing and retail section in the current pandemic?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to first of all thanks Tech Plus Media for organizing this event. And thank you, Saurabh, for a wonderful introduction. As Saurabh has rightly led the context of today's discussion about what is the role of IT in enabling agile supply chain. So as you all know, we are experiencing the pandemic since last more than 1.5 years. And this is the situation wherein nobody even thought of, even dreamt of, as such a kind of situation will the mankind ever be facing. So this is almost there for last 1.5 years, and everybody in the industry, every person in the corner of the world has been affected in all verticals of life. So the key challenges, according to me, are for the retail and other people manufacturing industries is that how to manage the demand fluctuations because of the pandemic and the various disruptions in the industry that has been caused. The most important factor that has been affected is the demand fluctuations. The demand fluctuations have gone for a toss, I can say. And the most important challenge that the manufacturing and the retail industry is facing is how to manage the demand fluctuations. And another important factor that has got drastically affected is, and the worry before each and everyone is, how to manage the cash reserves. So that has been becoming the most important task before everyone as to how do they reserve the cash in the current given situations. And also the important factor is how to protect our people who are the key resources for each and every organization, be it a retail customer having a small shop at the corner of the street, or be it a manufacturing industry. So without people, nothing can happen. So the key challenge, according to me, is also how to protect the people in the current pandemic. Last year, when it was almost coming to an end, that everybody thought the pandemic is over. But again, it has hit by the second wave, and everybody is fearing that now third wave will come. So in the given situation, the task or the important challenge before everyone is how to protect our people. And if we are able to protect the people, then only we will be able to organize them and obtain work from them. And another factor which I feel is that the pandemic is not going to end very shortly. It is going to stay with us, or rather we have to stay with the pandemic. So given the situation, the another challenge before everyone would be how to maintain the long-term supply challenges, or how to overcome, I can say, the long-term supply challenges. So these are, according to me, the most important challenges that any industry or the retail person is facing. And added to that, while sailing through the rough weather, the important aspect is also how do we maintain the talk with the customers, the customer being the most important for every industry. So apart from other challenges that I have mentioned, it is also very important for each and every person in the industry as to how do we maintain the contact with our customers. Then and then only we will get the pulse of the customer. Then and only we will get the pulse of our business, and that will help to sail through this rough weather. So sort of these are the important challenges that I feel that the retail industry and also the manufacturing industry is facing in the current pandemic.
Yes, Ajay, I think you have raised very valid point. You spoke about the demand fluctuation, which I think all of us have observed in our day-to-day operations. You also spoke about cash reserves and how we are protecting our workforce who are actually coming to offices and going to factories. I think these are very valid points. Prashant, let me come to you. What do you think are the problems that retail or manufacturing industry is facing from your perspective or your business? Hi, Prashant. I think you're on mute. We are not able to hear you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saurabh. Good afternoon. I would like to thank the Tech Media for this webinar where we can discuss about the supply chain management basically. So, in the context from my side, the biggest challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic is its uneven nature, which leads to supply chain disruptions. See, manufacturing and its customers are faced with a reality where the solution that they worked yesterday and today will not necessarily continue working tomorrow. The situation requires continuous reassessment, quick decision making, and agile execution. Uh, to understand the key challenges for this pandemic, we need to understand the reason why such challenges occurred. And if we do an analysis, deep analysis, we found three major reasons behind this, which are, if I named the first one, various restrictions which we have to maintain. Second one will be the home isolation. And the third one, regulations which are imposed by the government. So as we have the root cause. Now, as an IT leaders, we need to address potential disruptions for these three reasons and provide a complete foolproof solutions for that only. If you want me to highlight few challenges or name few challenges for this pandemic, I can say frequently changing in the market demand due to change in consumer behavior as they are home isolated or they are in remote locations. Limited visibility is another challenge for this pandemic where the production floor peoples are quarantined or at home isolations. Again, the third challenge which I can say is quick execution of change in supply chain requirement and the delay in the arrival of key equipments due to missing supply chain information, as most of persons are working in the isolations. So as per me, there are only major three challenges which we need to identify, which are various restrictions, home isolations, and regulations which are imposed by the government. Thank you,
So
Robert.
Prashant, you briefly mentioned that you feel that if the speed of execution is faster, do you think these kind of challenges, there's a chance that we can overcome them? When you talk about agile execution or the speed of the execution.
Obviously, that's why I said the quick execution of the changes in the supply management, because all these challenges are come only these 3 points. So if we identify all these 3 points, we can overcome from the any kind of the challenges which Rajiv has been mentioned, and I'm completely agree with him. These are the bifurcation of the challenges which we are facing. If we categorize the challenges, the root cause of those challenges which can lead to any different kind of challenge, these three are the key challenges which we are facing.
So let me go to Anil now. So Anil is part of Lulu Group India. Anil, what kind of challenges do you see from your business that are being faced in pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, Saurabh, for giving the opportunity to speak about this particular so-called previously inventory cost center part, now a business continuity part, right? I agree to what Prashant and Rajesh spoke about largely, yeah. But you also have to see the fundamentals that now the warehouse or a distribution center is moved from a B2B kind of proposition to a B2C. When I say B2B, I mean to say a warehouse to a store and so on and so forth. Suddenly, the warehouse and the DC suddenly became a store, so-called the dark store. And there are multiple jargons which you can put on, right? And that impacted or that put the applications to test. One, in terms of, yes, I can understand from a staff point of view, we were low on staff and so on and so forth, what's happening because of the current situation. But all your ecosystem was put into challenge. How good was your ecosystem to scale was the biggest challenging factor. While your ecosystems can develop, was a scalability in par with what your workforce would take up or would understand is something which has come as a major challenge. So that is an eye opener. Let me not call it a challenge, but it's a kind of an eye opener, right? An opportunity for an IT guys like us to work it out. Second to that was, I will go with what Prashant spoke about, the agility part of it. How soon could you meet as Rajesh said, the demand forecasting, right? Suddenly you became B2B to become B2C. The whole your end user has changed. The thoughts of the end user have suddenly changed. Suddenly it came up to be saying that you need to have safety. You need to tell me what is the temperature of your staff and so on and so forth. That also came as a part of your DC. That was not previously a part of a DC, and you did not expose it to someone. Today you're talking to a customer, and customer needs it. And lockdown has brought in so many other parameters in terms of your containment zone. You need to take care of that, and also factors of cash management, as correctly said. Today we at Lulu, while I look at a couple of verticals of Lulu, one is retail, one is mall, hotels, and flight kitchens, and so on and so forth. So I had different different range of problems and challenges in all of this. But underlining this was two major. One is the workforce management, how good your workforce could be, and at minimal workforce, how can you scale up your systems? And all my ecosystem was put into challenge. So that was something which came up very clearly, where I had to meet the end customer rather than meeting my internal customer.
Fair enough. So when you say ecosystem, I assume you're talking about your partners, vendors, everyone.
Yes. Your ecosystem in terms of your IT, your how good your warehouse management system was, how good your SAP could take it, the ERP could take it, how good that invoice came out in terms of your restrictions and compliance as a change during the pandemic. Part of that, and also from an ecosystem standpoint of view, of the partners, where they're capable of integrating with you in a seamless manner.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks for clarifying it. So let me go to Rajiv again with one more question. Rajiv, how do you think the planning and resource optimization and customer insights have helped help businesses in this pandemic? What is your opinion? What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Saurabh. And normally in the management terms, we always talk about resource utilization, planning, deployment, check and act and everything. But now a special focus is required to this terminologies in the current pandemic situation as to how do we plan our resources. Earlier, we used to implement the so-called ERPs for effective utilization of our resources. Now the special emphasis is required as to how do we effectively more utilize in the least possible time all the available resources. Let me take a small example wherein the customer comes with a new product and says that within how much time you will be able to supply us the prototypes or the finished products. And if you are not able to commit to the customer that we will be delivering this product or the prototype, say within a month or so, or for that matter, 6 months or so, if it is a complex product. If you are not able to deliver that within the committed time, then there is someone else who will take up this opportunity and win the customer. So what is more important in this phase is how do we plan our effective resources and put it to work and gain customer insight in this pandemic situation. So what is more important is since the salespeople are at the forefront of the customer, we should be able to give the salespeople an effective tool by which they will be able to understand the client profile in a more effective way, the changing client profile in a more effective way, the customer taste in a more effective way. So that is very much important. Certain tools will be there in place, but we need to gear up as to how effectively these tools can be utilized from an IT angle. And also we should leverage sales to discover the new customer needs. There are new customer needs that have come up in this pandemic pandemic times. Earlier, we didn't thought of any kind of oxygen concentrators that will be required in the huge numbers. Earlier, we didn't think of masks that will be required apart from the medical use. So suddenly the demand for such products has shoot up like anything. So what is important is how effectively and in the least possible time you deliver these products to the customer. And let me tell you one more thing about how do we improve our sales experience during this customer difficult times. You should be able to create a customer delight organization. I mean, to should be able to create a customer delight by which the customers will remain with you for a longer time. Let me take an example again here in which recently we have been hearing that this is a slightly different example, but let me quote so that it gives a effective message. During the pandemic time last year, we have been hearing that in the United States, in most of the stores, the toilet papers were not available. And there was huge rush to grab the toilet papers. And in some of the videos, we have also seen that there was stealing of the toilet paper rolls. So that appeared to be funny for us. But let me tell you an example wherein this toilet paper case was utilized, effectively utilized, I can say. There was a family in United States that ordered during the pandemic lockdown situation. They were bored, kids were yelling, we cannot go anywhere. So they started saying to the daddy that let us order food from the nearest Italian restaurant. So they ordered from the Italian restaurant, and the food was everything nice, and they enjoyed it. And when they opened another box, there was a huge roll of toilet papers. So everybody was surprised as to why the toilet papers in this, along with the food that was ordered. Later on, when they opened it, they came to know that it was a branded toilet paper of that Italian restaurant. An Italian restaurant had a allied business wherein the toilet papers, because of the low occupancy of the hotels, was not being utilized. So the toilet papers were utilized here. And the point here is noting is that they try to create a customer delight, a customer rich experience, and the product that is not available in the market that was made available to them. So such things, such opportunities need to be caught, and by which we should be able to deliver the more customer experience. Another relevant case from our manufacturing industry, I can tell you. We all talk about warehouse and full of warehouse material. The material is getting piled up, it is carrying dust, and the inventory is not moving. And as I told you initially, the most important challenge is how do we conserve the cash? So unless and until the finished goods is not moving from the warehouse, the cash will not come and the rotation will not happen. So what is important is how do you effectively manage the inventory at the warehouse? And for that, from the IT angle, which is the theme of today's discussion, how do we optimize the warehouse inventory? For that, nowadays people have started talking about robotic sensors and whatnot for optimizing the inventory of the warehouse. So there are a lot of tools and AI-related products by which the inventory of the warehouse can be optimized and that can be put more effectively to use. So in a nutshell, I can say that from an IT perspective, we should be able to use such tools by which the customer delight can be achieved, and by which we will get more and more customer enriched experience. Saurabh.
Thanks, Rajiv. I think you have given us a very good tip to ship toilet papers whenever you want to increase customer delight, and I think we will keep it with us.
No, that was just an example as to how customer delight can be achieved.
Yeah. So let me go to
Believe,
Prashant. Yeah,
believe
sorry, sorry.
Saurabh, this is a real example, and this is not an exaggeration of by any matters.
No, no, no. I'm sure. I'm sure. I think people these days, companies go to any length to ensure that they retain customer, and then they provide a kind of a delight so that the customer keep coming back. I think it's a very
Yes,
good example. A very good example.
right.
Let,
Yeah, thank
let
you.
me go to Prashant with the same question. What do you think the impact of resource optimization and planning help us in achieving some kind of a business improvement in current pandemic?
Yeah, sure, Rajiv. Actually, I'm glad with this, Mr. Rajiv's examples. It very clearly shows how we can retain the customers, and from same from the IT side as well. So, see, as I said, from coming to your question, as I said earlier, the solution that work today will not necessarily continue working tomorrow in current situation. So, to overcome from such situation, we required continuous reassessment for our process with the mapping of customer feedback, where the customer what they want, what they desire, the same mapping has been done in our process with the customer feedback and their requirements. By doing this, we keep production in sync of the customer and the our market. So no matter what changes market are showing, for supply chain managers, the have the ability to adopt quickly to change that will continue the production in such crucial times. And that is why the transition to the technology, as Mr. Rajiv said, transition to the technology is very much required, and you can use high-end ERP and or even Industry 4.0 and its component. Actually, this the Industry 4.0 or its component is no longer an optional. It's coming to a mandatory part of any manufacturing units right now. See, employees are forced to work from home, which limiting visibility into the production floor and supply chains. As a result, the ability to monitor resources and planning remotely become crucial capability, and it's no longer just a nice to have a feature. So that's why I'm saying the transition of the technology is very much needed in the current scenario of the manufacturing for the manufacturing industries. See, to deal this with this pandemic, our planning and resource executive are taking a data-driven approach to mitigate the risk and focus on building sufficient flexibility into their process, which will protect any production disruptions. With the help of technologies, manufacturing industries are more focusing on developing strong frameworks that involve a comprehensive Industry 4.0 capabilities. Such transformation is result in the end-to-end adaptability across the supply chain, which is capable of surviving in the current situation as well as in the future crisis. Just for the example, what we have implemented for the customer delightness, as Mr. Rajiv said, see earlier what happened, the customer provide us SO in the hard copy or soft copy, then they will get the update on the telephone what's going on for their products. Now in this pandemic situation, we scale up our ERP system with the collaboration of the Industry 4.0 of some of components, and we come one step ahead. Now customers are uploading their sales invoices with the digitally signed in our ERP system directly, and they can monitor all the major process steps by their own dashboard. So they do not need to contact us what is the progress of my production, what are the stages, when I can get delivered it. So all these things are now on the technology, and the customer have a dashboard where they can monitor their product on real time. All things are on real. We have demonstrated the customer the actual how it's work, and they are very satisfied. So by these things, the technology helping the planning and the customers, how we move forward in the pandemic situations.
I think very valid
Thank you
point,
so much.
Prashant. Very good inputs. So Anil,
Thank you so much.
what do you think? How these kind of optimization or planning has helped Lulu Group in this current pandemic or maybe in the last wave?
Yeah, so from a Lulu Group point of view, I just recently joined, so I can't be too much into that. But largely, where previously we used to work around couple of things. Let me sum up with anyone who have learned from this is three aspects. One is agility, one is scalability, and one is data driven aspect of it. Agility from a standpoint of view, saying that how responsive are you for the needs, right? Your seasonality, your peaks, your scaling ups, your addressing larger market. Suddenly, your market has changed. Your market has not just been your stores, but a larger audience has come in. How do you scale up to them, right? How do you make sure your space utilization is in appropriate place? While you're going on a steady state, all of this looks good in the way it is not only system efficiency which we have seen or agility, but also operational agility has come out of this as a point. How operationally agile you are with vis-a-vis the systems. So that nice puzzle has been solved some way or other, or you got time to solve that puzzles, right? So that's from an agility standpoint of view. While from an scalability standpoint of view, people have seen that some jobs which were now in a steady state looking good can be automated, can be robotized, or whatever you call it, right? So in that manner, we can bring that reduction in OPEX, because cash management is one big thing which is coming up from this, right? So these three or four aspects have come from the scalability standpoint of view, right? And the last but not least, everything is driven by data driven. So how transparent or data visibility, if I have to say, how transparent are your systems talking to each other? How transparency have you brought in between this integration of multiple channels? Like a WMS system may not be talking to a picking system in the way it should be talking when your audience change, and so on and so forth, and so the traceability and so on and so forth. So all of this data-driven data visibility, if I have to call it, to the larger audience, has brought in or has been one of the big insights which have come up from this pandemic. So largely under this three roof of agility, scalability, and data visibility, I think we have learned a lot of things to do. Not only technically, not from a technology standpoint of view, also but from an operational standpoint of view.
Thanks, Anil. So let me go to Rahul now to understand how does he think that some of the questions raised by our co-panelists can be addressed by analytics or AI, or if there is any example that he feels that he has experienced.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think across the companies and including supply chain, the AI and digital is driving transformation, and this is only accelerated by the COVID impact. I think we spoke a lot about demand uncertainty, changing customer behavior, and that's one area that obviously is going through a massive transformation. And obviously, AI/ML is helping in multiple ways. A lot of the old trends are become obsolete because it doesn't really apply. So your model needs to update more frequently, need to be very sensitive to the what's happening locally, as well as in a very recent time period. So a lot of work is happening on how to sense that demand better, and how to make it available for what if kind of quick scenarios and quick decision making. The planning cycles are shrinking because of very fast change, demand planning, and that's where a lot of the AI/ML is actually helping. The other area that AI/ML is helping, and it will definitely see a lot of traction over the time period, is ability to track the cost and get visibility of each and every step end to end, and ability to measure cost to serve a product. That will essentially become extremely important as we go along. Um, uh, all of the we talked about resources and how we are facing that shortages primarily because a lot of people are fighting COVID. There are a lot of new work that has come to everyone's plate, and organizations are struggling with capacity really. So a lot of the enhancements in the RPA is helping with the automation processes, the way data is generated, the way data is processed and made available to help decision making. A lot of the technologies are actually helping to make that available quickly in the near real time and helping make decision making better. So all of these initiatives, obviously, I think right from planning to execution, we have lot of AI ML applications and only getting accelerated after pandemic.
Awesome, Rahul. I think I have a personal question also. So my son has just got a phone device, and then he gets a trigger every now and then to buy Domino's pizza. He will get 15% discount, 18% discount. How do you guys do it? He keeps coming to me, Papa, this is what I have. So how do you guys do that kind of analytics? I think it'll be good for if we can brief us.
I mean, yeah, I think as you can imagine, I think this is one industry which is severely impacted by COVID pandemic. I think lives have gotten busier for everyone, and your social occasions have gone down really, and food plays a major important part in that. So what we're essentially enabling is to have that convenience, provide that value, and bring the social occasions back. So a lot of work actually happens behind the scene actually to understand the customer preferences and providing what is most meaningful, which will enhance the customer satisfaction. Somebody spoke about, I think the focus has moved from inventory management to customer experience actually. So a lot of it is I think the businesses are focusing a lot more on how do we offer the differentiated customer experience, and this is part of that really. So a lot of science behind it, but hopefully I think customers are happy. So
no, I think
or at least we expect
congratulations.
them to
It's
be happy.
the kind of work that I think it hits us precisely when he wants to eat a pizza and the flavor or the type of pizza that he wants.
So,
Glad to,
If
thank
if
you.
I
you
can
can,
add from this point of view, it's just like handshake, right? We have said that I like pizza, and they have captured that I like pizza. And I'm sure that every time they will know that the offer coming up, you will get it. So it's a more of a handshake, it's more of a data handshake. We are also enabling them to say that, give me a pizza.
Sure. So let me go
Yeah,
to
just
Subrata
a
now. Sorry,
statement to
sorry.
add.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt in between. See, when we studied management way back in 1986, the simplest definition of marketing was understanding the customer's needs and trying to fulfill them. So here is the connection to what your son is demanding. So the pizza seller is understanding the demand of the customer, your son, and he's trying to fulfill that. He has stored in his database what your son likes, and accordingly he has pulled up that information, and he is shooting up an SMS trying to fulfill that demand and trying to sell his products. That's what I connect.
yeah. No, I mean, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
AIML is helping understand not just the stated behavior or what is very visible to the eyes, but even the latent preferences as well. And with the customer
Yeah.
experience and delight in being a center point of it, yeah, I think it's getting used. Thanks
So
though.
let me go
Thanks.
to
Yeah, right.
Subrata. Subrata has been waiting for a while. Subrata, what do you think this data analytics and AI is helping Godrej in mitigating some of the risk which this pandemic has brought in?
Yeah. So as you know, I think our other. First of all, thanks for having me here, and I hope you all and all your loved ones are well and staying safe. I think the panel members, most of the panel members have touched upon various things. They have spoken a lot about what are the challenges and how AI, ML, and data analytics are helping us at this point in time. And as you know, I think data and analytics and AI, ML, that's actually touching each one of our life in various ways, right? In personal life as well as in our professional life, we can see that happening, right? So I think in the last 1.5 years, I think the pandemic has us through a lot of challenges, right? As you know that there are several constraints, right? Whether it's a constraint of people in the factory, whether it's a constraint of supply, whether it's constraint of people visiting the market to sell the products, so all of these areas there are several constraints, right? But as as you always have seen that the human nature is to find out a solution, right? So whether you use technology or not use technology, I think we will find a solution to address some of those needs. Hopefully, what has happened now, actually, the data and the technology capabilities actually are coming together, right, and helping us to overcome some of this situation much better, right? Because today we are in a position to actually capture a lot of data, and the data is coming from different sources, all right, structured data, unstructured data, and then you have got all this compute power and the technologies which are available today. And using those technologies, we are in a position to actually predict, prescribe, and then fix some of the challenges what we are facing in our day-to-day life, right? So if I look at it from an organization point of view, from our organization point of view, I see several areas where this data analytics and AI or ML can help us, and we are using in quite a few areas. Like, say, for example, it's in the area of sales forecasting, just to understand. I think our panel members have mentioned, right? Some of the panel members have mentioned how do we actually sense the demand. See, earlier what you used to do is basically we are forecasting based on what has happened in the past. Yes, past data is important, right? But in this kind of circumstances where the customer preference is changing, right? Customer requirements are changing, right? And there is a shift between discretionary and non-discretionary spends, right? You can very clearly see that, right? So how can we actually sense what the customers need, when the customer need, and then therefore deliver it to the customers, right, at the right time? I think that's where we see some of those technologies like ML can actually play a very significant role, right? So it's not so much AI. I think we very loosely use this term AI, but it's not so much AI. I think it's more ML what we keep using, in our environment. And I think mostly, most of us actually are using more ML when you do the sales forecasting, for our businesses. We also there are also other areas where I see there could be a lot of use cases. And like, so for example, when your sales guys are going and visiting the retail outlets, right, or taking orders remotely, I mean, you can predict what the customers are going to order. Like he talked about, I think Rahul gave a very good example, right? Before they know what your son wants, right? What kind of pizza they want, right? Probably based on the data what they have, and and also capturing certain unstructured data and applying ML, they are in a position to very quickly predict what your son is going to order, right? And then that's called is basically you can recommend, right? What I'm saying, this is what you see when you buy it in Amazon, right? How do you actually cross sell, upsell your products, right? So I think there are several opportunity areas, in the business what you see it. Also, I see even there are several other areas, like, say, for example, in today's environment, it's very important, as I said, we are talking about discretionary and non-discretionary spends, where people are able to are able to really are thinking of actually managing their cost much better in this uncertain situation. How can you actually help? How can you use some of this data analytics and ML in your pricing decision, right?
Sure.
How do you actually, and promotion decisions, a lot of time, this FMCG companies, as you know that promotion plays a big role. Like Domino's, I think Rahul was mentioning, right? When you're buying so 10 rupees off, 15 rupees off, or 10% off, or 15% off, what kind of promotion will work? What kind will attract people to actually buy your products, right? So taking some of the decisions on pricing and on your promotions, right, you can use data analytics and all these ML technologies. So we, in our environment also, we are using quite a lot some of these technologies, and we see a lot of values. Also, as I said, even in the manufacturing units, if you wanted to actually improve your labor productivity, right, at the factory level, right, shop floor productivity, there's several use cases we can think of, right? It's the question of your imagination, and then quickly showcasing and demonstrating that benefit to the business, and then you scale it up, subsequently, and I think this trend will continue, and I don't see, there is a slowing down of, this thing going forward, right? The pandemic has actually accelerated this adoption much faster for all of us, and this will continue in my mind.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very valid point about solution. I think what we are looking for are the solution, not specific jargon words like AI or ML or tech or non-tech. As long as I think it provides a solution to us for a specific problem, I think that's what CIOs or CTOs are looking for. Let me go to Roscoe for this. I think he has been in the solutioning and involved with multiple clients. So Roscoe, rather than going into specific technologies, how do you think AI ML can provide an overall solution? So rather than actually looking at AI ML as a constituent of a particular technology or start using it, how do you think that it becomes a solution for solving a specific problem that we have?
Right. Thanks for that question, Saurabh. Thanks to the STM panel for your wonderful insight. I also would specifically like to thank the management of Veracities for sponsoring this event in association with Tech Plus Media. The theme specifically for this event being the role of IT in enabling a more agile supply chain. I would first also like to appreciate and acknowledge how far supply chain itself as a management concept has come. It's no longer about moving pallets, but it's essentially about getting the right product in the right quantity at the right place at the right time. So the supply chain essentially is allowing an organization or an enterprise to fulfill the promises it's making to its customers. So supply chain definitely a mission critical area for any manufacturing or retail entity. Now let's ask the question of, do we really need analytics, AI and ML? And I'd like to expand this idea with the help of an example. So let's say, for example, we have one manufacturing plant, one delivery vehicle, and just 10 warehouses or 10 customers or 10 delivery locations, right? What is the possible number of route combinations that exist to fulfill this delivery? Some people say 10, some people say 20, it goes up to even 100 or 1,000, and all of these are factually incorrect. The actual number is 3.6 million possible route combinations for fulfilling the delivery to just 10 different customers. So definitely not an exercise that a group of 5 to 10 people as part of a demand planning team along with a few analysts can conduct in a spreadsheet based environment. So therefore we've established the use case at least for analytics, ML and loosely AI as well. And this is only speaking with respect to network optimization. If we take the example of even your organizations or the other entities in India, we will have tens of plants, hundreds of delivery vehicles, thousands of wholesalers, and probably lakhs of retailers. So in that case, the combinations are that much more, and definitely it necessitates the existence of a system of one single collaborative platform that allows you to tap into that data, such as what Rahul and his team at Jubilant are excellently doing, tapping into that data, turning it into insight, and really making sense of it. And you can make this an end-to-end example. So something that we work with very closely with customers is tapping into historical data, using that to understand using regression analysis certain predictive patterns. Now, mind you, Subrata very correctly pointed out that this cannot be the only end point. It is the starting point. Because now the patterns are so sporadic that you have to ultimately rely on your RSMs or your SMs to get that final number at the grassroots level. So we are capable of building platforms today which can tap into your historical data, give you a statistical baseline upon which the RSMs and SMs can provide their inputs. So you have your demand that has been fixed. From here, you can send these numbers to the production planning department. You have your production quantities based on the existing FG quantities available. Again, because your source systems are linked, these numbers are pre-populated. You can then associate these with the BOMs or the bills of material associated with the SKUs. Typically, any organization has thousands of them. And also ship these ultimately to the procurement team, with the final output being that going to the logistics team, so that they are able to operationalize the network or distribution optimization model that we took an example of just a few moments ago. So in conclusion, what I feel is that the technologies definitely exist and they do not eliminate the workforce. They enable the workforce in eliminating time spent on activities that could be done by a system and makes their time available for effective reallocation to multiple other meaningful activities.
Sure.
That's what I feel, sort of.
Sounds good, Roscoe. I think we are at the fag end of this discussion now. Let me go quickly to Rahul again. So Rahul, I think you are running multiple such AI and analytics projects within Jubilant Group. So how do you evaluate the ROI of such projects?
Yeah, I think it's been an Achilles heel, isn't it? But I think as the analytics gets matured in the organizations and as there is a better linking between the work and the actions taken, as the outcome becomes more prescriptive, I think ability to measure the impact has been obviously improving. A lot of the impact essentially comes, and I'll talk about some of the supply chain examples. So we spoke a lot about demand planning and demand forecasting really, and a lot of that can be measured through our accuracy of the models, and the outcome that our models are driving can be measured through, in a case of a fast moving goods, it could be a cost of food wastage and cost of lost opportunity that we may have because of the lost demand. I'll give an example of we worked in one of in my prior role in the fashion industry, where the replacement cycles were optimized based on the demand patterns. This is the fashion industry, so a cost of capital becomes extremely important. So we not only just optimized for the top line and the margin, but also the shelf life of a product really, and that led to double-digit improvement in our overall positioning and impact on the margins driven from those products. I think a lot of the work around automating how data gets generated, processed, and accessed saves a lot of manpower planning as well. And we've seen again, I've seen double-digit impact on productivity by taking away the task and making better data available for decision making. A lot of the planning also leads to how our resources are planned, be it people, be it our resources, vehicles, trays, all of that really. So ability to sort of improve that cost per unit economics essentially is how the costs are actually measured. One key part to facilitate all of this is the ability to have track end-to-end costs, so we are able to optimize and measure the impact on every part of the work we do, and that's where I think a lot of the industry is actually heading.
Fair. So I think your point is, when you want to track any ROI, you figure out ROI project, you need to track each cost and each expense and each revenue that you want to you derive out of a project, and that's how that's.
Absolutely. And I think starting with the business case is absolutely important. Having a clear plan on how the success will be measured, and usually happens with all the functions, the technology and IT subject matter experts and analytics coming together to actually to make the required financial impact really. But I think a clear success measure, a clear implementation plan, and ability to track what's implemented essentially will drive the ROI measurement possible.
Perfect. So Subrata, how do you figure out ROI within your organization when you run such projects?
Yeah. So I think what we do typically is obviously for every project or every initiative, ultimately you need to look at what's the whether it will lead to cost saving or whether it will lead to increased revenue generation, right? That's the ultimate. But I think for some of those initiatives, that cannot be the only criteria. What you need to look at it is basically some of the leading indicators, right? What's your business objective, right? Whether you want to increase your customer retention, whether you want to improve your customer satisfaction, whether you want to improve your number of lines which you want to sell more, So I think you need to be pretty clear, or whether you want to improve your customer fill rate, So I think once you define what key performance indicators you want to measure, that will ultimately lead to obviously either some cost reduction or in some cases revenue generation. But I think necessarily, it need not necessarily be the same all the time. No, but as long as you are very clear about what are the key criteria, what are the key performance indicators you want to track, what are the leading indicators you want to track, and I think closely monitor that, I think it should be fine, right? And that's what we do in our business. And second, another context I wanted to give it here, I think another perspective which is very important is, see, if you look at it earlier when you were trying some of the solutions, like you had to actually invest heavily into in large applications which used to take many months to implement, right? In today's environment, when you want to try out some of this technologies using analytics and ML and all of that, right? You can start small, right? And you can start without going through a SaaS kind of a model, right? And then experiment it, see the benefit very quickly, and then if you see the benefit, if directionally it is giving you the good results, then you can move on, right? And if it's not giving the good results, you can actually decide to drop, right? So you can actually cut your cost, very quickly, cut your losses rather, I would say, like very quickly, rather than just investing heavily into just one application. So it offers, in today's environment, it offers a very high level of flexibility. It's important for us to actually look for the right technology, the right partners, and right way of doing things. Once we are very clear, I think it's much easier in today's environment to actually show the benefit and then take a decision. Yeah.
Very well said, Subrat. I think so. There are two key points that you mentioned. One is it is not always possible to associate a project with revenue or cost. There are certain benefits which you can't you may not be immediately be able to figure out the cost or revenue. Am I right?
I think the key point is, though ultimately it may lead to one of those benefit, but that benefit, that cost benefit or the revenue benefit, need not necessarily be just because of your technology intervention, right? There may be a lot of element which will lead to those benefits, right? It will lead to, let's say, for example, like the behavioral change, right? People change management, right? Process changes. There are so many other things, right? And if you're taking some initiatives, probably that particular product has to work, right? If you wanted to take that product out, right? Like, and there are many other elements, right, to get that revenue, higher revenue or cost reductions. But once you are very clear, there are these 3, 4, 5 key indicators which you want to track, which I call it as the lead indicators, right? As long as you are able to measure those and then show that very clearly, those are all giving positive movements, you are fine with that, right?
Saurabh, if I may take 1 minute.
Sure, feel free.
Just want to, I think, build on a very good point that Subrata said. I think, the lead indicators. So yeah, typically 3 measures we track. One is the adoption indicator. Did we actually make the decisions, or how close we were to our recommended decision? For example, if I'm recommending a given replenishment quantity, how closely I actually implemented that. So as the adoption goes up, we should see a result really. I think a very good point on lead indicator. It talks about, did the required behavior happen? Did actually happen? And the lag measure is always the last one. Did actually it work? For example, we wanted to drive better conversion. Did actually happen? And finally, a lead measure, lag measure is going to be, did it actually work? We were able to drive the conversion, but did that lead to a improved revenue, better customer satisfaction, and so on and so forth? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Rahul, for those inputs. Roscoe, let me come quickly to you. When you start these or implement these projects, how do you show ROI to your customers that these projects are helpful?
Right. Thanks, Saurabh. I absolutely agree with the inputs that came in from Subrata as well. And I think it's also very important for the implementing organization themselves to have the right construct to take up a project of this nature. For example, Gartner estimates that more than half of the supply chain organizations have started incorporating IT roles within their teams. But there is a statistic that is contrary to this also, that is in contradiction to this statistic, which is that while 70% plus organizations believe that technology is at the heart of the change that supply chain needs right now, less than half of them have been able to effectively incorporate any sort of technological change internally to enhance the supply chain process. So the way we approach it is probably a little unique because we are a bespoke consultancy. we try and identify, I think as mentioned by all the other panelists, what is the key objective of the implementation? What are the pain areas? What are the challenges? What are we actually trying to achieve? What are the possible outcomes we are looking for? And what is the predefined ROI that we can quantify, which could either be in terms of an increase in revenue, a reduction in cost, mitigation of risk, driving of innovation, or enhancing of customer experience. And if I have to take a very specific example, there is a preconceived notion that all of these initiatives are very expensive to undertake. But a typical, for example, we spoke about network optimization. A network optimization initiative will probably last not more than 2 to 3 months. It would cost probably somewhere around 20 to 40 lakhs. And this would include your software as well as services. And from a software perspective, being perpetual in nature, you own these for the lifetime of the organization. From a services perspective, it is a one-time investment, after which there is a dedicated handholding also that takes place. And if I consider this implementation was taking place for a team of 8, where we are able to effectively reduce the involvement to 2, and even if I take industry pay into account, that's 6 man months every month, probably around 6 lakhs. And quick math tells me that the solution post implementation in 3 to 6 months has already paid for itself. And beyond that, there's only better days to come. In conclusion, I feel that at times we are our own worst enemy. Enterprises, even looking to adopt change within the organization, are seeking at times local references. So everyone wants to be the first mover, but is also looking for a local or an industry reference. And that is when I just give the example of Asian Paints, which in the early 70s procured India's first supercomputer for 8 crores. Right? This is 10 years before even ISRO or IIT Bombay could procure their first supercomputer. And this is 20 years before any other organization in India could procure a supercomputer. They've been able to also effectively incorporate supply chain management technology in the late 90s that has allowed them to conduct predictive analytics, production planning, and also logistics optimization in advance, and also raw material procurement planning very effectively, using systems rather than relying very heavily on people or arbitrary processes. So I think that their results are here to speak for the investment that has gone through over the past few decades. They are growing at approximately 13% CAGR in terms of revenue over the past decade. And they also have an ever-increasing net profit margin. Because the distribution model also is different in the sense that sometimes they ship directly to the retailers rather than going through a wholesaler or a distributor in between. So I think the world is India's oyster right now. It's time to be Atmanirbhar. The technologies exist, and there's very strong partners. We come with very strong domain capability because we have people who come from more of a business background, people who are engineers, people who are MBAs, who bring a domain or business perspective on things rather than focusing on the tools or technologies that will fulfill a particular purpose.
This comes to the end of this discussion. Thanks, guys. It's been an honor, complete pleasure of moderating this discussion. Back to you, Kalpana.
This is certainly an interesting discussion and a very relevant one looking at the current circumstances. In fact, majority of the supply chain leaders are concerned that their supply chains are not very well positioned to handle the upcoming challenges. Hence, it's crucial to optimize the existing supply chain by introducing robust predictive analytics, logistics optimization, production planning, and raw material procurement solutions. It's time for the organizations to excel with the supply chain transformation led by technology rather than relying on people on arbitrary processes. With this, I would like to thank each one of you for taking your time out and for making this roundtable a great success. We look forward to many such engagements. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Saurabh. Good talking to you all.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thank you, everyone. Please follow #Digital Disruptors and stay tuned to our social media channels for more updates. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.